We have just received new information, new data, new signals that suggest that the media is pumping up the hopes that the real estate market could potentially rebound later this year. But in today's video, I'm going to be talking about how that's absolutely ridiculous and how everything that you're seeing related to the real estate market could in fact be just a mirage. You see, slightly lower mortgage rates are a false panacea for the root of the problem. And you might be wondering, well, why do I think that? That's because we can see here that the biggest factor to the home price growth and stability is the jobs market, in my humble opinion. And it is also my humble opinion that the jobs market is about to implode. And we can see here that the private bankruptcy filings are blowing past their COVID-era peaks as credit stress builds for small businesses. Well, why are small businesses important? It's because they could be responsible for a very big credit crunch coming up ahead. We even have Fed officer Neil Kashkari, one of the biggest hawks at the Fed, saying that he's worried about a credit crunch. Look here, US job openings, they fall below 10 million for the first time since 2021. We can see that the overall trend does not look good for the jobs opening. Now, why is this important? Because of an economic concept known as the beverage curve. We can see here that the recent weak jobs opening data is actually an omen for what's to come. When you have fewer job openings, this is going to be highly inversely correlated to a rising unemployment rate. Look here, small businesses, they make up 99.7% of US employer firms, 64% of net new private sector jobs, 49.2% of private sector employment, 42.9% of private sector payroll. What do you think will happen when these small businesses stop hiring? The unemployment rate is going to soar. Now make sure to follow me on Twitter for thought leadership on the state of the economy and investment strategy at Larry Chung CFA. This is my opinion recently said on Twitter. In my opinion, a potential catalyst is coming in the 6 to 9 months that could be a credit crunch. Imagine a person who owes $8,500 on a credit card. The card limit is $9,000. Due to uncertainty, banks can literally say your limit will be reduced to $7,000 as of right now. So you must pay $1,500 immediately to keep using your card. You think that won't happen? Think again, this is not a joke. We are going to navigate through this recession, okay? And we're going to come out of it stronger than we went in. So join me on Substack along with my other friends on the platform. We are going to have a very tremendous 2023. Look here. Commercial real estate prices could tumble 40%, rivaling declines from the 2008 financial crisis from Morgan Stanley. Now, do I think that's a bit dramatic? I think that's a little bit dramatic, but there is some truth to this statement. Look at this. The estimate comes as trillions of dollars of commercial mortgage debt is set to mature in the next few years, likely in a higher rate environment. And there's also a worry of broader ripple effects from half-empty office buildings because of the mega trend of work from home. We have a recent note from JP Morgan saying that the commercial real estate sector is going to be stressing banks in the coming quarters ahead. This is something very important to pay attention to. In a related note from Bank of America, they did a deep dive on the commercial real estate exposure across banks. And what they found was that many regional and local banks have commercial real estate loans according to their research. We can see that banks, because of this, are in trouble. They hold essentially 40% of the 4.5 trillion of outstanding commercial and multifamily mortgages, and a lot of the commercial real estate loans are underwater. A lot of them are non-performing. Look at this. Smaller and regional banks are critical to small and medium-sized businesses as they hold 40% of the loans and the debt at those companies. Companies with fewer than 500 staff members make up 58% of the privately employed workforce in the US. This goes to highlight how a credit crunch could be coming for small businesses later this year. Before we get worried about the real estate sector, what's really important is the ability to analyze it. it. And that brings me to the partner of today's video. Now, even though the real estate sector is still soft, having the proper skills to evaluate real estate can be an incredibly valuable lifelong skill. And that's where today's sponsor comes in, Financial Edge, specifically their Real Estate Analyst Micro Degree program. It covers topics such as financial analysis, property valuation, market analysis, investment strategy, and due diligence. The course is designed to provide students with practical skills and knowledge that they can apply in real-world situations. The Financial Edge platform has been selected to provide new hire training for the top 4 global investment banks according to the Financial Times rankings. This program consists of 350 videos with over 15 hours of video content from their Wall Street instructor team and 244 Excel exercises to solve alongside the videos. Online students can access the same high-quality training at their convenience and pace. Their team of experts, including former investment bankers and experienced Wall Street instructors, ensure top-notch instruction, so you are in good hands. Graduates of the micro degree programs can join their prestigious alumni community on LinkedIn, which includes financial professionals from leading firms. Certification earned through their courses can be listed on resumes, showing to prospective employers that you possess the same skills as those working at top banks. If you're interested in learning more, give it a try by clicking the link below in the description and use my code LARRY25 for 25% off. Now, back to the video. We can see here that the FDIC cannot bail out every single bank that is in trouble. Here, the FDIC is facing more than $20 billion in costs as a result of the turmoil, and the failures last month have still concerns that other vulnerable banks will soon be forced to pull back on lending as they see lower deposit rates and tighter financial conditions. On top of all the data that I just showed you related to the credit crunch and the commercial real estate sector, I want to talk about an upcoming very big problem, and that is McCarthy, Speaker of the House, saying to Wall Street, you should worry about the U.S. debt ceiling. For those of you who are a bit younger, you may not understand how the debt ceiling is important. Allow me to explain. Look here. The Congressional Budget Office projects that if the debt limit remains unchanged, the government's ability to borrow using extraordinary measures will be exhausted between July and September 2023. Now, more specifically, here's why this matters on a very practical level. The White House Council of Economic Advisors warned that the federal government would be immediately impaired from carrying out its basic functions if the debt ceiling isn't raised. This includes providing financial assistance that tens of millions of Americans rely on. Federal assistance includes Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid, veterans support programs, and various food and housing supplements. Social Security alone benefited 66 million Americans in 2022. And the CEA also referenced federal employee salaries such as the more than 1 million active duty personnel of the U.S. military who could find all of their payments jeopardized. Now, on top of this, U.S. Treasury bond yields could rise because, as of now, they're seen as risk-free because the government has never failed to repay them. But if the U.S. defaults on their debt, these yields could rise, and what that will end up doing is it will raise the rates on mortgages, on credit cards, on auto loans, and other types of consumer debt. This means the famous TLT ETF that a lot of people are parking their money in and capital in to weather the storm of the stock market turmoil. The TLT ETF could come under immense demand destruction if the debt ceiling goes through. Something to pay attention to. On top of this, we have some data on how a technical default and an actual default may come into play on the unemployment rate. Look here. According to financial models from the Bureau of Economic Analysis, they are saying that if there is a technical default on the U.S. debt, there could be an unemployment rate that rises close to 7% in sometime 2024 before leveling off. If there is a real actual default on the debt ceiling, then what's going to end up happening is the unemployment rate could soar past 10%, plunging the US into a very, very deep recession. Now, I know a lot of people are very excited about the recent rebound in stocks, the recent resilience in stocks due to the coming Fed pivot. But what's important is to understand what insiders inside the Fortune 500 themselves are doing. Look at this. If it's a start of a new bull market, the CFOs, they're not buying it. Now, you might be wondering why this even matters. Well, it's because share buybacks, which CFOs have direct influence on, they are responsible for up to $1 trillion of a backstop to equity prices this year. And they have contributed to a significant force in supporting markets. But what if the CFOs that I just mentioned, they halt their share repurchase programs later this year? What if their guidance includes reducing their share buyback programs later this year upon a credit crunch? That is all possible. Don't discount the possibilities. Now, because of the US banks having $620 billion of unrealized losses on their books, in an attempt to shore up liquidity, they may have to sell the treasuries on their books. That means the TLT ETF trade of 2023 that has worked so well for me and many others now have to be closely monitored. According to the hard data of Credit Impulse, we're seeing that the credit flows have turned negative. And when credit flows turn negative, so does growth. We need to be very careful about this. The US Credit Impulse, for those of you guys who are not familiar, this index represents the percentage of new credit loans by the non-financial private sector in nominal GDP. And we know that the US runs on credit. So the next conclusion I have here is this. A hard landing is all but certain, and markets will price this in within Q2 and Q3 as the stress in the system starts to build up and show deeper cracks. Some good news includes that Fed's bullard doesn't see a looming credit crunch that would push the economy into a recession, but I beg to differ. We will see who will be correct later this year. Now, here's what we've been doing inside our community. It is my belief that it really doesn't matter what type of market we're in. As long as the markets are open for business, there's opportunity. So we should practice an abundance mentality, find those opportunities, and use this time to build skills that can carry with you for a lifetime. So here's what we've been doing. We've been going after exceptionally careful stock selection based on today's unique environment and exercising tremendous patience based on an intermediate term outlook 3 to 6 months. We're also looking to find decisive tactical wins in the context of a largely defensive and conservative approach. And we are also exploring unique opportunities that retail investors may not really pay attention to in the search for alpha. So the investment universe is large, it's deep, and it's filled with opportunities. And inside our community, I will carefully find them and discuss them when risk reward right along with duration commentary is appropriate. So more thoughtful dialogue on Twitter and Instagram at Larry Chung CFA. Make sure to join my public email list below for public previews and exclusive content. Thank you to Financial Edge for sponsoring today's video, and I wish all of you guys good luck as always, and I will be back with more research strategy and thoughtful observations. See you next time.